So hey, for fans of this series, we are getting back, hopefully in the near future, to full episodes, working on one right now that I think is going to be really good, and I hope people really enjoy. That's the good news about it. The not as great news about it is the script for that one, and thus the full edit for it came out very long.
You know that would never work again in a million years.
Don't need it to, Brian.
And thus it's taking longer to finish. So in the interest of that, took a look down at my to-do list and prospective episodes for the series, realized there were a few of these that we can do as short subjects, looking at movies that are maybe mostly worth considering for just one or two key aspects in a more focused way in the short subject format, generate more material, more content. I hate that word content, but there you go. So let this be the first stab at that. Let us know in the comments if you like that. Probably going to see a few more of these in the interim. But so anyway, Blood on the Sun is a 1940 spy movie that is set in 1929 because it's actually trying to be a fictionalized, sensationalized thriller, quote, inspired by the story of the Tanaka Memorial, a document supposedly discovered in 1927 in China that laid out plans by Japanese imperial generals to conquer the world, starting with an invasion of China. So you can see how this is supposed to be important.
If Japan wants to control China, we must first crush the United States, just as in the past we had to fight in the Russo-Japanese War.
The basic idea being that Japan was gearing up to do the World War II thing slightly earlier than suspected. Certain factions in their own country and elsewhere across East Asia might have known about it, and if this information had been more widely warned about, or if those warnings had been taken more seriously, say by intelligence operations in the West, perhaps certain later global tragedies might have been prevented or played out differently. Today, the document itself and the story behind it is widely believed to be an elaborate forgery by most world historians, though it's still treated seriously in much of China and was widely believed when this film was produced, even though the movie itself has very little to do with what the story was thought to be at the time. It's mostly an excuse to do an espionage thriller with James Cagney set in pre-World War II Japan as an exotic, dangerous location. Cagney is playing Nick Condon, the editor in an English-language newspaper in Tokyo that breaks the news of the Tanaka Memorial document's discovery, publishes the text, and then tries to help the reporters who uncovered the big scoop escape the secret police and flee the country. It's got all of the tropes you expect of a movie like this from the period. Baron Tanaka appearing as an actual character, Sylvia Sidney playing a half-Chinese double agent.
I'm studying the problems of Japanese women.
Why?
A friend in Shanghai.
Now, don't tell me that was why he told you to get in touch with me.
Chinese women are just beginning to learn what it could mean to be free. If the Japanese women felt the same way...
You mean that might stop Tanaka, Tojo, Yamamoto, and all the rest?
It might help.
Characters committing seppuku, and a major plot point that involves hiding evidence behind portraits of the emperor because that will make Japanese soldiers afraid to actually search it.
We must search house, please. Jumbo Sagase.
Hi. Solo Heya. Sagase.
Anyway, the main reason people remember this movie is because it's also a minor story point that Nick has picked up a lot of Japanese culture having lived there so long, including learning judo. So when he confronts the toughest secret policeman in the big finale, this happens.
There's one flaw in your cleverness. It is as easy to kill you with these as with that. In fact, I prefer it that way. Japanese fashion. So this guy.
Okay, so for context, yes, this is the actual first Eastern martial arts fight between two actors and their stuntmen who were actually trained in the technique to ever be filmed and featured in a Hollywood movie. for real, this is the first time anyone had done this. They wanted James Cagney fights a Japanese bad guy Japanese style, meaning using Eastern martial arts, which by the mid-40s was now a concept a few more Americans were becoming sort of familiar with as a thing that exists in popular culture, thanks to soldiers getting experience with it overseas during the war and fitness magazines picking it up in general as the big, cool, fancy, you don't see that everyday set piece for this movie. So Cagney, who was already a proficient amateur boxer and fitness enthusiast in addition to his dance, theater, and stage athletics background, and who'd previously included a jiu-jitsu training sequence in the movie G-Men about a decade before this, got himself legit trained up in full-on judo by Jack Sergel, the definitely not actually Japanese guy playing the bad guy in this scene under the stage name John Halloran. Depending on the telling, there are accounts that Cagney stuck with his training before, during, and after this movie and attained the rank of either black or brown belt, in some tellings even training under Ken Kuniyuki. I've seen people dispute the actual extent of this. The official rankings of Western judoka from that era are kinda spotty, but he did train. You can see it on screen here, and Jack Sergel, with whom he'd actually do a couple more movies, was well known in the American fighting and sports fitness community of the time. In fact, Sergel was pretty interesting in his own right, in terms of what little is actually known of his life. He'd been an LAPD cop who was just really interested and admiring of Japanese culture and martial arts way before most other people in the United States had really heard of it, and he'd even competed in a judo tournament that was being held in a Japanese internment camp a few years before this. In fact, this got him in trouble. The FBI investigated him over it. Apparently, he was seen as being too positively interested in Japanese culture for an American in the 40s after Pearl Harbor, and this made him suspect. He actually had to resign from the LAPD over this, and that's why he had the free time to be teaching fight moves to movie stars. I mean, just think about the context of this for a minute. He was just super into karate and judo and Japanese sports, fighting, and fitness culture, and then the FBI shows up and gets in his face like, okay, look, buddy, this is just not cool right now. We're at war. You've got to make a choice between staying a cop and kicking, and his response is, well, I guess I'm gonna just keep learning about kicking, and from that, he segues into basically a movie career. I mean, he was real about it. And all joking aside, this fight is the whole reason to watch this movie, and it's pretty good. Look at some of this. I mean, yeah, it's messy, and it's not exactly the cleanest choreography, but the first time anyone in American movies had tried to do this, not bad. Also, yeah, in some of these shots, that's Cagney's stuntman, and there are some on-set precautions that being taken, just like there would be today. It's a movie, they're pulling punch-ins, and there's some padding and breakaway props, whatever. But you ever watch movies from back then where you can tell what's a set wall versus a real wall, or when they're on a real floor? That is clearly a real wooden floor they're eating those bumps on. Like, this is at least as gnarly as the kind of punishment you see stunt fighters taking in 90s Hong Kong movies. I mean, ouch! I don't care how you plan it out, that's a lot of shoulder throws on solid floors back when stuff was built to last. Can you imagine how beat to hell these dudes were at the end of the day? I mean, James Cagney was famously as much of an actual tough guy as ever worked in the business. Halloran or Sergel, you can see, is obviously a big guy, an ex-cop. They're both trained fighters, but this must have hurt like heck. And look at this part right here, especially if you're big into fight movies and actual combat sports history. Armbar! Legit armbar! How often do you watch a movie from 1945 and see one of America's best-loved Golden Age movie stars put a goddamn armbar on somebody? How cool is that? Anyway, the rest of the movie is fine. It's about what you expect of a film of this period. It is definitely not James Cagney's best movie of the era, or even close to like even the top 20 most memorable things he was ever in, but this is a moment in action movie history, and it's certainly the reason people remember the film. This is also the James Cagney movie poster that is up on Cagney's wall in Cagney and Lacey for a TV history reference. These days it is pretty easy to find for historical completism. You can take a look at it. It's a moment in film history and action history. You definitely do not see a fight scene like this in any other movie of the time, and you really wouldn't see it adopted or continued on until well later. The much more known, stagier karate fight that is more often credited as the first mainstream Hollywood movie to have an acknowledged Eastern martial arts fight is Sinatra throwing chops in The Manchurian Candidate. That's almost 20 years after this. But it's a cool fight scene, a moment in history, and it's a movie that exists.